Hello and welcome back to the Geckota YouTube channel with our second video. And so this one we're going to be going a bit more in depth in a brand new release, which is our 39mm G-01. So for all of you who don't know me, I'm Ben, Head of Product Development, and so basically I design the watches, handle some photography for the Geckota social media channels and different things like that. As the title suggests, and if you're already familiar with our existing range, we do have the G-01 diver's watch, which was released about 2 or 3 years ago. The original was in a 42mm case, which is quite thick, with the Seiko NH35 movement inside. It's a 300-meter water-resistant dive watch, and with this new release, with some feedback that we've had, people love the styling of the watch, the space-age look, but the 42mm size and the around 15mm thickness can be, a put-off for people with smaller wrists, such as myself. With this one, we've aimed to slim down the case, change the proportions very, very slightly, have a bit of an update on the design language to bring it a bit more like the modern Geckota style, but it's still reminiscent of the original release, which it still remains, one of our best sellers and one of our most popular watches to this day. So here, the best comparison is to show these two watches side by side. So through the range, we're releasing with 6-star versions, with 2 of them being really evocative of the original style, with the use of the same indices, very similar hands. So with this watch, we've actually changed the handset to our Geckota handset, if you will, which is our design handset, which we've used on quite a lot of our modern releases, such as the second generation of the Tourbillon, the C4, the E1 generation 2, which is not currently released, and then obviously this. But apart from that, it's using the same Fume style dial with the gradient on the outside. It's got the crosshair, the really space age design language, the squared off case, the shorter lugs. But there are a few key differences in this, which we've not necessarily upgrade, but for people who prefer the smaller watch, who aren't necessarily interested in all the bulk, we've taken some steps to refine the design in order to almost mask the thickness. So through this angle, you'll be able to see that we've used a lot of concave lines through this design, rather than in the last design it was quite slab shaped, quite 1960s dive watch inspired, where it was, the original one was really a tool watch, and this one we've taken it more down like the dressier everyday approach. We've got a concave line in the bezel and the case now. It helps to mask the thickness when it's on the wrist, just because when it's sat on the wrist, you can only see the top of the case from the top and slight angle views. The case thickness kind of masks into the wrist, which creates a really nice line. And then through these shapes, we've also integrated it into the lugs, where before it just had straight lugs, and now we've got these kind of curving lugs, and there's more of a pronounced curve. There's more of a pronounced, the chamfer is kind of evolved into, on the original it was just a straight chamfer along the slab shape, and now it chamfers, and then there's also a polished straight down detail on the side, which we'll be able to show through some macro shots. And then with all of this new angles going on, we also balanced out the finishing a bit more, so it made these new details a bit more obvious. So we have a brushed bezel on most of the versions here, as well as a vertically brushed case and a horizontally brushed side of the case, with the lugs and the top and bottom faces of the case still being polished, as well as the chamfer, and then the crown's also fully polished. So there's quite a lot of contrast finishing going on, because we really wanted to accentuate those new lines and just bring the quality forward. So that goes into a few of the new versions. So with this release, as I said, 2 of the versions are very evocative of the original release, and then 3 of the other dial versions are a new approach, which is kind of mixing the E1 Gen 2, the Explorer watch style, into this watch. So we've got the 369 Arabic numerals on these, and also for 2 of them we're using a honeycomb style dial, which gives it a real vintage feel, which I think works really well with the gilt handset and the vintage lume. Pretty much all of these watches, apart from the new more feminine version, they're all using a darker, more beige lume, whereas the original G1 was using white lume. So this one's really going for more of a vintage style. And through this one as well, we've got the same green fume color that was on the original, but it's taken it a step further in design development, to have the 369 as well as some other refined details, whereas we don't have the crosshair on the Arabic versions where we do on the other more deco, like space age versions. If you look closely, you'll also see that the dial is now a dual layer dial, or even a triple layer dial if you count the indices, whereas on the outside where the seconds track is, which was the black gradient before, it still is gradiented black, but the fume vertically brushed area steps up towards the inside where the indices are. So that creates a really nice sense of depth. It shortens the distance between the dial and the hands, so it doesn't look so much like there's like a cavity between them, and it suited the movement well. So this watch at the moment, because it's so much of a thinner case, we shaved off like 4 or 5 millimeters from the original release. This is a two-handed quartz watch. The case also will fit an ETA 2824 or a Miyota 9015 and stuff like that, so we are preparing the case for more automatic versions in the future. You get the benefit of the quartz reliability and timekeeping and price as well, obviously due to the movement choices. So it's really a balance between the specifications, kind of as I talked about in the previous video, where we've still used the same really high build quality. You know, it's a double dome sapphire, the stainless steel case with the really nice finishing. So it's just a very like clean and elegant watch that you can use for the everyday, but does have quite unique design detailing and coloring and stuff that, you know, makes it stand out. So yeah, we've got those three. In the Arabics, one of those does have a gold case, which is the first in the range. So yeah, it's a 1N14 plated gold case. It has a really nice yellow glow to it. We didn't use 2N18, which would have more of an orange glow, so it's quite subtle. It's more evocative of like genuine solid yellow gold. And we've mixed this in with this kind of burgundy-esque dial in a matte finish, which gives a really vintage feel. And then for the last version, we've got the Night Sky version, which is the first more feminine version to be introduced to the range. So this one is using a fully polished case as opposed to the contrast finish. There's a two-tone element to the entire range anyway, with the gold hands and indices and stuff, but with this one we've got the gold bezel as well, which is again fully polished, which contrasts really nicely and kind of complements the deep blue of the dial. So this is a night sky dial, as I'm calling it. It's really, like, the look of it is evocative of a night sky with stars shining through. It's a really dark, deep blue in the middle, and then it does gradient out to a black. There's not much contrast between the blue and the black, so it's really subtle, and it just helps bring the kind of the richness of the color through. And then this one also doesn't necessarily have any like big hour indexes, because we just wanted the dial to shine through. That's 6 new watches in the G1 range with a quick look. We'll be doing more videos like this in the future and more in-depth views on this watches, but yeah, be sure to let us know what you think of the new releases, and as always, thanks for watching.